I can't do it.
Okay.
We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. It. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Thing sucks.
And with that, it's Monday, December 9th, 10 a.m. right on the dot. It's the Daily Puck Drop broadcasting from the Limbach Lumber Studios. Contractors, I got free deliveries, everything from whole house packages to homeowner DIY projects. The largest stock moldings in the Northwest. Old school service. They've been doing it since 1930. Give Limbach Lumber a call, 206-782-3487. Visit them online at limbachlumber.com. Follow social media platforms. Puck Sports on X and Instagram, also on Blue Sky. Puck_sports on TikTok, and, of course, Facebook is Puck Sports as well. And that little QR code, you can sign up to join Puck's Posse community. You can link the QR code that you see on your screen. Also go to pucksports.com. Full access, all the content there at Puck Sports. Don't want to miss a thing. Become a full member today and get full access and VIP content. Again, pucksports.com. You can also go to patreon.com and search Puck Sports. Jim Moore, the go-to guy, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And he's brought to you by the one and only Bright Owl Lighting.
Yeah, brightowllighting.com. It's only 2 weeks till Christmas now, Puck. I imagine that Brian Turner and his crew will give you a good deal. You can get your free estimate at 360-675-2034. Decorate your home or business with Christmas lights. Full service. He'll design it. He'll install it. They'll maintain it. They'll put them up. They'll take them down. They'll store them for next year. So don't risk your life anymore. Like Puck took advantage of this service. I want to find out how that went right after we're done here. So call them at Bright Owl Lighting, 360-675-2034. And this reminder, the terrific holiday service is only available in Island, Skagit, Whatcom, and Snohomish counties.
That is correct. Look at that. That's the work that Brian Turner and his crew did there from Bright Owl Lighting. That's pretty. Look at the flag. Could have been a little bit better. That's my fault. It was windy. It was windy that past Friday, but they did an excellent job. Guys came out there. They worked quickly. They did a wonderful job on the house. It is bright. It is lighting up, Jim, the neighborhood. Look how beautiful that looks. What a good-looking old 1930 brick Tudor house.
Yeah, it is. And what was cool about it, too, I was texting with Brian over the weekend, and he was looking at it at night for the first time. He's like, okay, I got to make sure I get that one light fixed, and I got the tree on the left needs a little more love, and so he wanted to make sure that everything was just right, and he wanted me to tell listeners that it's not just because you're a big deal, Puck. He does that for everybody.
Well, he came back. He came back on Sunday. Mm-hmm. He was back. He was in Seattle. He was picking up something. He's like, I'm going to swing by. I'm going to fix the one light bulb that I think is out of place. I'm like, Brian, it's just a light bulb. It's okay. It's just one. It doesn't. Oh no, it bothers me.
Yeah.
So that's the type of service, folks, you're getting there at Bright Owl Lighting, and that's why one ball being misplaced is why he decided I need perfection, and if I want perfection, that's why I support and I sponsor the Jim Moore go-to guy segments every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, because you, sir, are the definition of perfection.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I always have been throughout my entire career. Did you feel guilty at all when you were watching everybody else put up lights on your house?
Oh, like in saying why I could do this?
No, just like, I can't believe I'm doing this, and I should be putting up my own lights. No,
I don't. There's no guilt whatsoever. I've detailed just how much I can't stand it, so it was great. It was fine.
Yeah, the kids are happy with it.
Kids love it. Kids love it. Everybody loves it. Neighbors were asking, who did that for us? Brian at Bright Owl Lighting, but it's not going to come on down here for us. Maybe we get Brian to expand the empire. Maybe this will be it. He'll expand the empire because we get so many people commenting there on the lights. All right, Monday edition, our full rundown. We'll talk about the Seahawks offensive line. Guess what happened? They won in the trenches. Weird.
Yeah.
Weird how that happens, and weird how that's the key every week in a football game. College football playoffs, we'll talk about just the morons that are on that committee. And then I thought it was going to be better, but it's not. Juan Soto. How much do you think the Mariners offered Juan Soto? And then we got the Ground Puck Seahawks podcast coming up at 11. Of course, Hey, What the Puck at 11:30. And it is up, I should have mentioned in the rundown as well, It's Portal Watch. Portal Watch is open. Will Mateer leave? We lost the defensive tackle today. With that being said, I'm in the portal. Oh, Ansel Denbu, he's out. He's in the portal. All you got to say here, for all these guys joining the portal, here's the message. Instead of the long-winded post on social media and then at the very end going, with that being said, I'm leaving, just say, hey, I'm entering the transfer portal. I'd like to thank my coaches and teammates for the past X amount of years at school. I'm looking forward to the future. That's all you got to say. It's real easy.
No,
Not
but
the
every one of
stupid
them-
run-on sentence with that being said.
God, I'm so sick of with that being said.
Oh, me too.
You know,
Me too.
I mean, over there on the bench, they're just sitting there going, but, however, yet, just simpler way to say things.
Yeah,
You know what else irritates the shit out of me? And I'm going to tell you right now, it has nothing to do with that being said.
Oh.
It's always the quarterback position, the cornerback position, at the cornerback position. How about just say at cornerback? When do we start saying at the quarterback position? At the offensive guard position. When did we start doing that? It bothers me, and it's a small thing, but it bothers the shit out of me.
I
Just
can
say,
tell.
at quarterback, the Seahawks have Geno Smith.
Okay.
Okay, that's all.
All right, these are the little things that get you worked up. This is what I
Done
love
with
about
my
it.
little rant there. I'm curious. I don't know what you want to get to first. Probably the Seahawks.
Well, we're going to go Seahawks because I laughed. I laughed and I thought of all these keyboard all 22 people on Saturday morning. And the first people that came to mind, because everybody, you know this, right? Everybody that's on this is like all these like all 22 film guys now.
Oh God,
I
used to be
tired of all 22 film guy trying to tell me some guy that and whoever who has never called offensive plays in their life ever, trying to tell people Ryan Grubb's the problem.
Yeah.
Right. Or whoever.
Just as an aside, when I was a Sonics beat writer,
So dumb.
I didn't know what they were running, but I think I did a fairly good job.
Because
But
you're a
God,
reporter.
These guys all act like they got to know what coaches know,
They
know?
don't.
Shit.
They
Give
don't
me something
know.
about the point spread, Hey, the Seahawks, when are we going to start getting that in game stories? I don't want to hear about gaps and integrity and all that bullshit. Give me something about the spread and how they covered, or something like that. Let's have a different spin on things.
I know. There was a transition to this, and whatever the transition, when it happened, but it's happened, and it's just like, and there's some people that don't do it. There's just old schools. There's still old school reporters out there that do it. I just get tired of all 22 guy. I really do.
I know, but is it because we don't really follow it or don't understand what's happening out there? Because I feel like, a little inferior with that, I feel like I should be bringing more to the show when it comes to why the schemes worked and what the coverages were. But I mean, God bless you, Millen, but sometimes I just kind of go,
yeah, but that's Hugh. But hold on. That's our good friend Hugh, who I had a great conversation with this past weekend. That's our great friend. He's a quarterback.
No, I know.
My point is, he played in the league. He is.
Was he at the quarterback position or was he a quarterback?
He was at quarterback.
Okay.
He was he's qualified to talk about it. He can go up on a whiteboard and draw up plays. These other guys can't do that. They don't know what they're talking about. They really don't.
No, I would disagree with that because I think if you study it long enough, you don't have to play the game to be able to break something down. Wyman always used to tell me that. He was like, Jim, just because you didn't play the game doesn't mean you can't understand what's going on out there.
No. That's not what I'm not saying you can't understand football. This is why I'm going to get back to why the game is so simple, but we try to make it, these all 22 guys try to make it so complicated. Get back to the second. But these all 22 guys that want to break down film and tell, like, Ryan Grubb needs to be fired, they can't call a play to save their fucking life. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't. They just don't. You're telling me this blogger guy can go up and pen a play that would go up against Mike McDonald with no coverages? They don't know. They have no idea what they're talking about. It's just the fad thing to do now. Oh, look at this. Well, yeah, he missed it here, and he had the guy open there. That safety was coming down. They really don't know what they're talking about. Just go back to reporting. Hey, what worked today? What didn't work? What were you happy about with the game today? Can we just go back to that? Here's my long-winded point. Well, I thought about those guys, and I thought about you, and I thought about all the cliches we always come up with in sports, right? And the number one cliche in football, it really is just you win the trenches. They go and they're going around college game day, and they're analyzing. I think it's at halftime. Actually, it's halftime of the Arizona State Iowa State game. Okay, Reese Davis and Nick Saban are analyzing the upcoming SEC championship game. Mm-hmm. And Reese Davis asks, all right, real quickly before we go and get second half of Arizona State and Iowa State, Nick Saban, your key to the game, Georgia and Texas, and all 22 guys waiting to hear something really great, right, that nobody else can come up with. This is a 7-time national championship coach, regarded as the greatest coach in college football history, right? Knows more
very
football,
much so.
Knows more football than all of us put together, correct?
Yes.
You know what his key to the game was? Whoever wins the line of scrimmage is going to win the game. No shit.
And he's probably getting $10 million a year from ESPN to say that.
But that's my point, though. He's right, and everybody's right on every game. If you win the line of scrimmage, you're going to win the game. And so this whole crap last week about, God, you got to fire Ryan Grubb, and Ryan Grubb needs to be replaced and all that. His offensive line can't block. But you know what they did yesterday? They dominated. They absolutely dominated. And thus, the offense looked really good. They rushed for 176 yards. Zach Charbonnet, who some people want to run out of town for some weird reason, puts up 134. Damn near gets 60 in the passing game. Jim, they were 7 of 15 on third down. Damn near 50% completion percentage. You know how many times Geno Smith was knocked down?
Well, he got hit twice, right?
He got hit twice. 0 sacks.
Yeah.
They won the game because their offensive line dominated. That's the beginning, the end of the story. Well, I mean, the defense played great too, but that's why they won. And because their defensive line dominated Arizona's offensive line, right? But yet we want to overcomplicate it all the time. Well, scheme gap and Ryan Grubb needs to be more efficient on 3rd and 1. What his play calls are. No, his offensive line needs to block better, and they did yesterday, and that's why they won. Pretty simple.
Yeah, well, did Ryan Grubb all of a sudden? I just got a kick out of it because last week I was just thinking, man, if he had a better offensive line, we know what he had at Washington. They had the best offensive line in the country, so he was a great play caller. And then all of a sudden he goes to this Seahawks line that was trash for the most part. And that's what I'm most interested in is the transformation from being trash to being an above average offensive line. I mean, you plug Abe Lucas in there and we know he's good, but you expected him to be a little rusty before he got up to speed. And then you get LaMea in there, a 6th round rookie, and he's pretty good. And then Olu at center, you're going, well, wait a minute. You didn't think he was good enough to start at the beginning of the season. You even brought that Husky kid in before you traded him to Cleveland. Mm-hmm. And you thought things were so bad at that position that you went and got, a guy that was still banged up and then retired mid-season. How could he all of a sudden go from the guy that you thought was a 3rd stringer to a 1st stringer at center and being, well, not exceptional, but certainly passable there? Those are the things that interest me. Why? And then does it have to do with the scheme and where they're blocking? I mean, I saw Scott Huff got the game ball from McDonald yesterday, and rightly so, because, I mean, geez, this guy is having a heck of a time trying to find a good combination out there. And the other thing I thought about is that we always talk about how important that position group is with continuity, that you need continuity along the offensive line. Well, shit, they haven't had continuity this year, and all of a sudden they're a decent offensive line. So what went into that? Why did that happen? I don't want to see a breakdown of a certain play. I just want to know how these guys came together. And I suppose since I'm on a show with you, I'm supposed to be offering insight on that. Well, shit, I don't know, man. I have no idea how they're blocking better, but it's sure nice to see. And you're right about winning in the trenches. I mean, that's what's happening. This team has really been fun to watch because they've gone from, well, I mean, they're still struggling sometimes on offense, but look what they did yesterday in the first half. 24 points in the first half. I mean, on the road against Arizona, and
set up by their defense, which we'll praise. I mean, they sputtered a little bit in the second half, but when the game was on the line and they needed to finish them out, they put together an awesome drive to end the game. They just did a great drive. I mean, I think it also is this, that for the first time in God knows how long, hell, it might have been the first time this season they have the same starting 5 back-to-back weeks. I'm going to go back and double check that. I mean, I mean, think about. I mean, it is about continuity. You got to have the same 5 guys there and let them like work together and breathe. Everyone says the same thing. I don't care who you talk to or what level of football. That's the most important group in football, and it's the most important group because you want the same 5 guys there to work together. They got a lot going on in a game. They got to call out protections and schemes and who's got who and all of it. I mean, it's a mess. I know that with Inter Bay
Eagles.
There you go. I mean,
A little late on that.
Yeah, a little late. But when you're rotating guys in and new positions, they don't know what they're doing, and so maybe they've what I've been hopeful for, and saw some signs. I think like everybody last week, and certainly signs yesterday was I wanted to see this group if they could all stay healthy. This 5 stay together for the final. What was 5 weeks? Now 4 weeks left in the season. And we'll see, or regular season. And we'll see how they turn out. I mean, Oluwatimi was a highly regarded center coming out of college. Why it maybe took him some time last year to navigate through things. And then they get a coaching change. And maybe,
Wasn't he a 5th rounder, though? He wasn't that highly regarded.
Well, he won the award for the best center in college football.
Yeah, but there were reasons that he was drafted in the 5th round.
Yeah, but he still was regarded in college. He was a highly regarded player. Maybe he wasn't drafted as high, but
fair enough.
Laumea, I mean, I don't know. Sometimes you hit on these guys late in the round. Happens. I don't know. He's still not like an absolute proven product. There's probably some stuff that he can learn to do and be better at, like all players. One thing that's evident, and you don't need all 22 guy to tell you this, they like pulling him a lot. Because that's all they did yesterday was pull him because he's athletic and can get out on the move.
Yeah.
So.
I heard an interview with him. I was on one of the stations I was fired from. And he I thought it was cool when he said that Christian Haynes was one of the guys that's been helping him out. And, you think about Haynes, that he's a guy that was supposed to be in that position. And so pretty
Maybe
cool to hear that.
And maybe he will be one day. And that's the other thing. Here's the best case scenario that could happen for this offensive line right now. Let's say Laumea can be a guy, can be a starter in this league. And it's way too early to give up on Christian Haynes. And it's a little disappointing that he hasn't taken that spot. And then he got passed over. In fact, I don't even think he's the backup right now. So that eventually Haynes, maybe next season, gets a starting job. Now you've secured your 2 guards. And now you've got your offensive line. Just imagine just in a fun make-believe, everything is great world. Laumea ends up being a starter in the league. Haynes figures it out. Eventually, he's the other guard. You've got your left tackle, you got your right tackle, and you got your center. And they're all young. God, wouldn't that be nice? I mean, that's not too much to ask, right?
That'd be perfect.
Jesus.
Yeah, and especially think about that, too. You'd find a 5th rounder as a longtime starter, a 6th rounder.
Wow.
And what was Abe? Abe was what, a 3rd rounder?
Yeah, I think so.
And Cross 1st rounder, but I don't know about Tomlinson. But
they the reason everyone's like, oh man, like I joked after the game, and some people didn't find the sarcasm in it, which was funny. Where I said, I at the end on social media I said, fire Grubb.
Yeah,
Like,
what
really?
people didn't pick up on that?
A couple of people didn't quite get it. But that was just about last week of this discourse of like, we got to fire Ryan Grubb.
Well, if you're all 22 guys, should you apologize to him at the press conference when he comes out this week?
Sure.
Or,
I just think that just stop. You're not an offensive coordinator. I mean, my God, you can't call plays when your line can't block. It is just so simple. I mean, people are smart. They understand that, right? At any level of football, you cannot call plays if your offensive line can't block. Just can't.
No,
The
you
only
can't. You
reason,
can have
like,
all
watch-
the weapons. I mean, the Seahawks have plenty of weapons on offense, but you can't get to them and use them properly if you don't have time to get to them.
Look at the. I'm sure you watched it last night. Shout out Chargers, they covered for me. We'll get to our lock of the week, our dogs of the
those
week
bastards,
at the end.
though.
They keep
I needed
doing
them
it,
to
man.
win. I had a money line parlay going
Yeah.
with the Seahawks and the Rams.
It was great. But look at Mahomes. The guy's running for his life on every play. The only reason they're winning is because he's the best quarterback. He might be the best quarterback the league's ever seen.
Oh, I think so, yeah.
Running for his life and making plays.
Yeah.
Their offensive line's a mess.
No.
But because he's so good, he makes up for it. I mean, he's the only reason.
Yeah. Hey, you want me to try and start a running back controversy?
Oh, you want Charbonnet?
Can't you make a case for that? And I know everybody thinks that Walker's more talented and all that, but Walker's the kind of guy that looks like you get, some singles and you got the opportunity for a home run every time he touches the ball, but you also have, with him dancing around, the opportunity of not picking up a 3rd and 2. Charbonnet, more of a vertical guy, north-south, hard-nosed. I mean, look what he did yesterday.
Much paler.
Hey, if you're Ken Walker, if you come back and you play against Green Bay this week, I suppose you can say, hey, man, he's just coming off an injury, so, figured that he didn't have that great a game. But if he has a poor game or two and you start thinking about Charbonnet and what he did against Arizona, do you kind of gravitate a little bit toward the UCLA kid over the Michigan State kid or no?
I don't. I mean, I think Walker's still way
come
more
on,
talented.
play along with me.
No,
would you?
I'm not
You like
play
controversies.
Along. Not going to play along
this
with
is
your
what
stupid
sports radio
game.
or sports podcasts are all about. You just go out of your way to create shit. I watch Stephen A. Smith every day. He's getting 120 million. I'm getting freaking peanuts. But I'm going to try and go down that road. Let's go, Zach Charbonnet. I want him to be the starting running back here in Seattle.
I don't know about you,
Super Bowl. What?
But I'm thankful for the peanuts that Bright Owl Lighting throws your way.
Hey, that was a good one. I like that comeback. I appreciate what
No, Walker's a more talented back. But here's what I think.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure. Yeah.
You're positive?
Positive. Yeah.
Okay, but what about his style of running compared to Charbonnet's? Would it be more beneficial to have a guy like Charbonnet running the ball than Walker?
I think, yeah. To your point, does he dance a little too much? Yeah, but he has to dance because most times there's a defensive tackle in his face.
No, I know.
That's why he's got to dance. So, I mean, I think he'll be fine. If they've somehow found something in their running game by, using these guys, especially Laumea and Lucas of pulling more. They did a lot more pulling and a lot more of that. Maybe that's part of the game plan. Gannon talked about it afterwards. Hey, we saw some stuff in their running game we hadn't seen before. So they made an effort to get some of their linemen on the move. Well, they implemented this week against Green Bay. We'll see how Walker does. Now, Walker's a more talented back. I mean, I think it's evident. He's been the starter since day one. But I will say this about Charbonnet. I think Charbonnet, for some reason, gets I know people are upset because of how high he was drafted, especially the year after you take Walker, and why did you need to do that? And I get that. He's a very talented running back, though.
Remember how good he was at UCLA?
He's great. I think he gets really discounted by a lot of people in this town he's a talented back. Not going to say he's going to supplant Ken Walker, but that being your number 2 guy, he's more than capable. And what I thought yesterday was great, and credit to whether it was Grubb or Geno Smith, whoever, it was like a page out of the old Patriots book in Brady. Just dump it down. Take your 5, 6, 7 yards to your back out of the backfield, throw it short, and just methodically work your way down the field. Now, that was awesome. I mean, my God, he had 134 yards on the ground and almost 60 yards receiving. He was great yesterday. Good for Zach Charbonnet.
Yeah, he was. Well, he certainly warranted getting more carries, more touches.
We'll see.
In the next game.
I'd love to see them both on the field at the same time. I'd love to see them both out there, working. And was it me or did Ian Eagle every time he got the call really over enunciate his name? Charbonnet. Did you notice that, or is that just me?
No, I didn't notice. I don't have the volume up that high anyway.
Oh, you don't?
No, not.
Don't like to hear the guys talk.
I didn't even know it was Ian Eagle on the broadcast. Who was with him?
It was Charles Davis. We like Charles Davis.
Yeah, we do like Charles Davis. I'm not so sure I like Ian Eagle, though. I don't really care. I mean, he's probably a great broadcaster. I just don't like that he gets upset when people call him Ian.
Well, that's not his name.
No, I know, but it's natural for someone to think he's Ian and not Ian.
Well, he would say it's actually pronounced Ian.
Okay, wait a minute. Hang on a second.
What if people
How many people do you know that have the name IAN? And you look at it and you go, oh, that's Ian. And then if you're going to be a jackass that wants to go, against the tide and say, well, mom and dad want me to be called Ian. Well, don't get irritated about, because I don't even know if this is true, but I think I've heard this from you before. But if somebody's going to call you Ian, Like when you're checking into a hotel, it's like, oh, hello, Ian, we have your room ready for you. I'm Ion. Is that the kind of guy? I mean, he's like, shit, he's like an electron or something, you know?
I don't know. That's his name. What if, your real name's James. What if people called you, hey, Hymus?
I don't give a shit, man. I mean, I just appreciate somebody calling me something.
Instead of idiot. I don't know why. I don't know. He's the only Iron Eagle, I think. I know. Or no, there was the guy that was on Beverly Hills 90210. I think it was Ian Ziering who played one of the characters. But Iron Eagle's
You think Furness has ever been called Iron by anybody?
I don't know. Maybe. Maybe he has.
I don't think so.
I don't know.
Anyway. So, but Ian Eagle is a good broadcaster, or else he wouldn't
like
be doing
Ian
the
Eagle.
I mean, he must be up the ladder quite a ways because that was a big game yesterday. It was
Well, it's a huge game.
Division leaders.
Well, they had to win. I mean, it's not that they're going to wrap up the division, but my God, they're. I mean, all the analytics, the chances of them getting into the playoffs dropped significantly. It went something from like there was various percentage points, but it was something like if they win, it's like 70% to get in the playoffs. If they lost it, I think it dropped all the way down to 11. There was a couple of different formulas, but I mean, they've got a 3-game lead now in Arizona. I mean, 2 games, but because they own the tiebreaker, now 3 games. And then the stupid Rams, they had to go and win yesterday against the Bills. We needed the Bills to knock them off. So a game up on the Rams just feels like it's going to come to that last game of the season. I don't like it. I don't like playing the Rams.
Yeah, I got another $100 bet for you. I mean, the Seahawks look like they're going to win the division. I'll give you the Seahawks to win the division, and I'll say someone else does.
Well, I mean, it's like the Rams. So the only team they're going to win it.
Well,
So you're taking the
49ers
Rams.
could win it.
Technically, yes, but they're going to have to win like all of their remaining games. All right, sure. You want $100?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
$100.
I'm already
Writing
going to owe
this
you
down.
on the Geno thing.
Yeah, but we're waiting. I got to write all these down because I don't even know how many bets we have out right now. We've got the Geno bet with Sam Howell. That's $250, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a sure loser for me.
Sure. Yeah. Now this $100 bet. We made another one last week. Do you
No,
recall what it was?
I mean, you still owe me for betting on Mike Tyson.
Okay, I owe you $100.
Yeah, so you owe me 100. You owe me 125 because you took Mateer to be the Heisman Trophy winner.
Oh,
I put the bet in.
I can't believe you'd bet against our quarterback, but okay.
I didn't bet against our quarterback. I was with you. I went another 25 on my own on my website.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So 125 out. All right. Keep track of it because now we got another $100 bet. I've got the Seahawks. You've got the field.
I will keep track of it because I'm making peanuts, and you seem to be doing better than me, and you can't keep this stuff straight.
Yeah. Bright Owl Lighting.
Fixed income now. You know, my unemployment runs out the end of December. So
thanks, Brian. I mean, I know it's just peanuts, but thank you for supporting Jim Moore, the go-to guy.
Shut the hell up. The guy just put up lights for you for free.
I know.
Yeah.
I thank him, but I appreciate Brian and Bright Owl Lighting.
You're such a dick.
Hey, that's
you're
not nice.
An absolute dick sometimes.
Why?
You are.
What's not fair?
It's not peanuts what Brian's giving me. I just appreciate that he's sponsoring me. I do.
Yeah, I know.
I do.
We'll make the transition to clean streak, I believe, next week. Defense was everywhere in that game. Derek Hall was everywhere. God, he's been a nice player. Mafe was making plays. The 14 points off turnovers. You know what? I'm watching Tyrese Knight play, and I'm wondering to myself, what the hell did they see something else in practice? They were like, he's not any good? Because every time he plays, he led the team in tackles yesterday. He's defending Marvin Harrison Jr. on a couple of plays. Like, he looks phenomenal.
No, it goes with the offensive line changes, the changes at linebacker. Those things you like to think are going to be an improvement, or else McDonald wouldn't be making them. And yet you think to yourself, well, wait a minute. If those guys were that good, why weren't they starting at the beginning of the season? And if you thought they were going to be that good, why'd you have Baker and Dotson out there in the first place? So, yeah, but it's all come together. I mean, there's so many things. I always, look at it from a beat reporter's perspective, and so many things to write about with this team and how they went from, especially on that side of the ball, from being so subpar to where they are now.
Yeah.
And they even, you look at them and you kind of go, I'd give them a glimmer of a shot of maybe winning 1 or 2 games in the playoffs. And who knows, you get in the NFC Championship game. And if you have to play in Detroit, you played in Detroit a couple times already the last couple seasons, and you won one of those, and you held your own in the other one. I mean, Detroit, we think is head and shoulders above the Seahawks, but not as much as they were a month ago.
Well, I mean, and then I think especially with Detroit's injuries, right, with their offensive line, or excuse me, with their defense. I mean, I think if you go back to that first meeting, I mean, yeah, listen, it got away at the end, but for a moment, that was a good game. They were doing
the
what
Seahawks
they wanted
defense
to do.
is better than Detroit's right now.
Oh well, for sure. Well, I mean, Seahawks defense.
I mean, look at Campbell. The call that he made. I know it would have been a tie game if they hadn't picked up that 4th and 1, but he even said it. He goes, I didn't. He basically said, I don't want to see my defense on the field anymore tonight.
Yeah. Well, they. What did I read today? They had not one guy that was in their starting 7 Thursday was in it week 1.
Well, didn't they flash a graphic showing 13 guys on the IR or something?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know if it was all. It wasn't all in the defense, but
yeah. Well, I mean, do they give a chance? Yeah, I mean, I think listen for all the playoffs, maybe minus like the NBA, right? Because it's a series. But you get in the playoffs, sure. Especially football, it's like the college.
Well, then look at the Eagles.
I mean, everybody's got a shot.
Well, the Eagles have won 1 million in a row, but still, yesterday they struggled to get by Carolina, which was my lock of the week.
Yeah. Good job. That was a good one. That was a
Carolina
great
in 13, winner, chicken dinner.
Yeah, that was a great one.
But there were complaints, I guess, in the locker room afterwards. One of the players was, saying the offense needed to be better, and so who knows? I mean, maybe the Eagles could be beaten in Philadelphia too.
Well, it'll be fun. It's gonna be fun. The final 4 games of the season. Got the Rams at 7-6. They're at San Francisco on Thursday, so we need the Niners to knock them off. We need the Niners to knock off the Rams this Thursday. That would be very, very good for your Seattle Seahawks. Then they go to New York to take on Aaron Rodgers. And then the final 2 games, Cardinals at home, Seahawks at home. Seahawks, of course, have the Packers coming up Sunday night. Then the Vikings at Chicago. And then the Rams. So, yeah,
how unusual is that a Seahawks fan would be rooting for the 49ers? But you're right.
You have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to. So they got to split one of these games, right? So what's the likeliest one they get, the Packers or the Vikings game?
Boy, yesterday I had the Vikings-Falcons game on, and the only part of the game I saw was the Falcons going down the field with the opening drive and scoring to go ahead 7-0. And then when I saw the score later that the Falcons lost by 21 points, that Minnesota team looks pretty good with Sam Darnold. But now Green Bay's favored by 3 over the Seahawks, which surprised me a little bit.
It opened up, I think, at 2 and jumped up to 3. Well, it jumped up at 1 point, but whatever.
I suppose if I had to pick one, Minnesota looks like they're probably going to be the tougher one to beat.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Plus, as you said, both of these games, even though they're home games, it's going to seem more of like a neutral site.
Especially the Packers game. Well, Sunday night's going to be a good test, right? Because that was the theme or the kind of a topic early in the season, right? Opposing fans coming into this stadium. Yeah.
There'll be a lot of Packer fans there. I think there's going to be a lot of Minnesota fans too. You've talked about how many people from Minnesota relocated out in Seattle.
Yeah. I think there's going to be a ton, but it was just a great win. They needed it. That really was, when you start talking about must-win games, that was a must-win game. They wanted to win the division, get the playoffs. That was a must-win game yesterday. And I think the fact that they got down 7-0, you thought, oh my God, here comes Arizona. Oh, they look so different. They're moving the ball, and they were pretty efficient to walk down there and score in that opening drive. And then the defense took over, and Mike McDonald's defense is humming right now, man. It's absolutely humming. 2 games against Murray, they got 3 picks. They've held Connor in check in 2 games, 98 yards. In the 2 meetings this year, they
held the tight end in check yesterday too.
Oh, McBride, yeah, they sure did. Yeah, they just seem they're confusing all these offenses and all these quarterbacks. Like the Knight, that first interception, dropping back in coverage. I guess they didn't confuse them on the Kobe Bryant pick, because, as McDonald said afterwards, we had a busted coverage, but Kobe Bryant ended up making a fantastic play. But man, their defense is just. It's playing awesome. And Ernest Jones right now is going home to his wife and kid and going, man, my bank account's just getting bigger and bigger. Every game it's getting bigger.
Yeah, you watch him play and you just sit there and you think, why'd the Rams give up on him? Why
And the Titans, it's a head scratcher, isn't it?
I mean, the Titans lost to Jacksonville at home yesterday.
I thought, I don't know if you listened. I like to listen to the post-game show with Mike McDonald. I don't know if you listened to it after the game, but I'm tuning it in, and I'm listening. And you know who and there was a very long-winded question, but it was a great question. I mean, when I say long-winded, it took about 2.5 minutes to ask.
Doug Farrar.
Care to guess who asked the question?
Doug Farrar.
No, but Doug Farrar does it. Doug, we love you, but Doug does ask long-winded questions.
Couldn't have been Curtis. Couldn't have been Booth.
No, because they weren't there.
Was Millen there?
Hugh Breedlove Millen.
Oh, I got it.
He was there.
He was the show horse in my guesses.
He was there, and he had asked the question. And I mean, I'm listening to this. I'm driving, and he's just. I started at one point to time it, how long it was. And I could just, like McDonald, you could sense through the radio, McDonald going, is this going to wrap up? Like, when are we going to wrap up? But it was a good question because Hugh's point was, is there correlation to when you were in Baltimore to now when your defense started getting going? I want to say it was the first year. You guys made the in-season trade from Queen. And you got Queen and you acquired Queen, and then it kind of changed everything. For you guys, and he acknowledged there were some similarities with Queen or putting Queen into the defense, that there were some similarities between Queen and then the acquisition of Ernest Jones. It was good. He had a good answer. He said, yeah, there's something to it because you got to get the right players to fit your system. We just didn't have the right guys, and now we got one in Ernest Jones.
All right. I think McDonald knew who that was.
My guess is no.
My guess would be no too, but he was certainly in the league a long time, but just quite an age difference there.
I think probably, afterwards, the Scowler probably had to tell him who that was.
No, it's been fun to watch though, hasn't it? I mean, they were. Yeah. You could even say they were pretty much dominating that game yesterday. I mean, you could tell. If you didn't know anything about either team, I mean, there's clearly one team better than the other, and that was fortunately the Seahawks.
Yeah. So it's a good win. They'll move on. They got Packers coming up on Sunday. All right, let's go to the college football playoff. These guys are just dolts, all of them. They're just dolts. Why are these people on this committee? They don't know what they're doing. They really, really don't know what they're doing.
Okay, what are you complaining about?
Well, first of all,
what did you want? What did you want?
Okay, well, there's about 1,000 things to unpack here. One. How does the number 1 overall seed get absolutely fucked in the whole thing? How does that happen? How does it happen? Listen, your wife's an Oregon Duck. I'm not going to sit here and I want the Ducks to lose. I was rooting for Penn State, but because I root against all the defectors. But come on, man. They don't. How does the number 1 seed?
You don't root against Sparky anymore.
Well, I like Dillingham a little bit. I do like Dillingham. I do. I can't help myself. I love that guy. But how does the number 1 seed have to play the winner of Ohio State and Tennessee, but Boise State gets Penn State or SMU? That doesn't even make any sense, man. That does not make sense at all.
Well, I'm all for Oregon getting a bye, and I'm all for Georgia getting a bye. But when you give a bye to Boise State and ASU, and I understand that you're trying to reward teams that have won conferences.
Yeah, that's stupid. They need to get rid
as
of
much as Puck, I want Boise State to run the table, win the national championship, Ashton Genty go off on the teammates' shoulders. I want all of that. But the schedule they played compared to, and I hate the SEC, but I think all those people in the SEC make a point when it comes to Boise State. And then, if you're a Boise State fan, you're going to be going, well, what about that close loss that we had in Eugene? Okay, fine. But what about the rest of the schedule they played?
Yeah, it's fair.
I mean, the Mountain they struggled to win some of those games in the Mountain West, and now they didn't against UNLV in the championship game for the conference. But I don't know if Boise State necessarily should be getting a bye in this thing.
Well, that's the one thing, and it's probably all fluid. That's the one thing they need to do away with. It's been a talking point. Everyone agrees. They maybe not everyone, but they need to do away with that. The conference champions don't get an automatic top 4 seed. That needs to stop.
I mean, the Sun Devils have had a great season, and I'm with you. I'm pulling for them. I think it's a great story. They were picked last in the conference, and it's a 16-team conference, and they won the damn thing. And
awesome.
Whatever you want to say about the Big 12, the Big 12 was down this year. Well, still, they won it. They were the best out of 16 teams.
And they obliterated Iowa State.
But, I mean, if you base it on what Las Vegas thinks that ASU is going to do against certain teams, the other 11 teams, they'd probably be an underdog to most of them. So you wouldn't make them a 4 seed. No, I mean, it's just, but that's the one change they got to make. Because here's the other thing, too. It's confusing, I think. Well, it's confusing for me. It's confusing for the fans. Because when they do the reveal and it's like, well, they're actually ranked 8th or 9th or 10th or what 16th, but they're the 4 seed. Like it's not watching it all year long and them having to explain it and then they had to re-explain it all the time. It's just too confusing. It's way too confusing. And there's never going to be a perfect system because of, they don't play. All the conferences aren't the same. I agree with you. The SEC is the best conference in football. It just is. You just got to watch it. I know people get sick of hearing it, but Alabama, to me, I just ask any college football fan, neutral field, who would you take, Alabama or SMU? I'm going to take Alabama. Yeah.
Okay. So there's that. I just don't understand the seeding of it. I don't understand. They come out and say, why did the Big Ten get so much respect? Why? They weren't that good. They just weren't. That wasn't even remotely the best conference in America. Not even close. Who'd they beat? Who did these teams beat? You just mentioned the team that is the number 1 seed, Oregon. They had to survive against Boise State. They had to survive against Idaho, an FCS team.
Well,
Penn State beat anybody? No. Ohio State beat anybody? No. Indiana beat anybody?
No. Oregon beat somebody.
Well, beat Ohio State. Yeah, who did
Yeah.
Ohio State beat? Nobody. Who did Indiana beat? Nobody. Penn State beat anybody? Nobody.
And then I don't blame these. I don't blame
somehow.
I don't blame these coaches that are talking about. I mean, why play in a championship game, a conference championship game?
Well, no, you shouldn't.
If it's going to hurt you. I mean, Indiana, if they'd played in the Big Ten championship game against Oregon, I mean, they would have gotten smoked.
Well, here's the thing. That's the thing I don't understand. They the week before, they're like, well, hey, no one who's idle this week is going to jump anybody, right? Because they're not playing. But yet they penalize teams that played in it.
Yeah.
They dropped SMU 2 spots. Why? Why'd you penalize them? They dropped UNLV. They lost in the Mountain West game. They dropped them by 4 spots. Why? Why are they getting penalized for playing in a championship game? They shouldn't get penalized for it.
Yeah, they're the number 2 team in that conference. I mean,
so there's no consistency.
And SMU, if SMU hadn't had that comeback, I think Alabama would have been in the top 12. Yeah. I mean, if they'd lost by 14, if they hadn't come back the way they did, right. I think they would have been out.
But Alabama's got a point. I mean, I'm not gonna sympathize too much with Alabama. Do I think they're one of the best 12 teams in the country? Yeah. But you know what? You can't get your doors blown off by Oklahoma in a game in which you were double-digit favorites. I mean, you did it to yourself. They got no one to blame but themselves for that.
Can I give you a crazy hypothetical?
Sure, I love it.
All right. If we had won our last 3 games and we were 11-1, do you think we would have snuck in? Because Clemson's the number 12 team. I would tend to say, as much as I love the Cougs, that we wouldn't have.
Well, they had won it. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it would have been right down to the wire, but they did not. They did not pull it off.
No, I know, but it did occur to me yesterday. I was like, God, I wonder if we were 11-1 if we would have made it in there somehow. But I don't think, using your neutral field analogy there, I think if we played Clemson on a neutral field, we'd be, what, a 10-point underdog at least?
Who? Clemson?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Maybe more. And here's the other thing.
I take the points.
Here's the other thing I don't like about this whole system, right? So Penn State gets to have a home game, right? But Oregon doesn't get to have a home game.
I know.
Like like none of these top 4 teams, Oregon, Boise, ASU, and Georgia, they don't get to have a home game. Now you can say because Georgia's playing in Atlanta, that's a home game. Okay, fine. They're neutral site games, and Oregon gets to play in the Rose Bowl. It's fine. do away with the quarterfinals on a neutral field. This is just, can college football for once, just once, take into account fans? You're asking a fan base to travel 3 different times. It's not
Which,
feasible.
even if you can get the time off from work or if you're retired or whatever, think about the cost involved. I mean, I looked into flights from Bend to San Diego for the Holiday Bowl.
It's
go. $600, at least. And so 4 of us are going. That's $2,400 hotel, rental car, the whole shebang. I'm going to save our money to, watch the Cougs in the Final Four with that basketball team.
There you go. Another quad 1 win.
Yeah. God, they were impressive Saturday. I love that.
Shit. Well, we almost were coughing it up at the end. Boy, oh boy. But that's a huge win for that basketball team, man.
Oh, my God.
That is back-to-back wins against a real good Boise team, real good Nevada team on the road. And I don't like how they call that a neutral site. There's nothing neutral about playing in Boise, even though it's not on campus, it's at like a convention center. What's neutral about that? There's nothing neutral about it. God, it's so dumb.
The first half, we wiped the floor with them. It was so much fun to watch. God, we can pass. Our coach is cool.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. There's my prediction. That kid is one and done.
That kid?
David
Riley. Watts?
David Riley will be one and done.
Oh, our coach?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe so.
That is a one and done right there.
Yeah. Well, and then Coward, the guy that I kept asking about with the injury situation, it looks like he might be out for the year.
Yeah, well, shoulders. Yeah, they didn't. He's going to have shoulder surgery, but they didn't say, it was just cool to watch them. I know most people weren't watching because it was the same time as the SEC championship game, but I was flipping back and forth. It was cool just to see them on CBS, the marquee game, right? With
Jay Wright as a commentator?
Jay Wright and Bill Rafferty. And I'm like, this is unbelievable.
And they were talking about how impressed they were with our squad. It was so much fun to hear national guys talk about us like that.
One thing, so I don't like the quarterfinals need to be at the home sites.
Well, they need to, I don't know how they work that out with the bowl games then.
Well, then
does the Peach Bowl need to be in this?
Is the Peach Bowl in the quarterfinals?
Yeah, ASU is going to take on the winner of Texas and Clemson.
Is that the Peach Bowl?
On New Year's Day.
No, they don't need to be a part of it.
I didn't think so either. No. I mean, I'm fine with the Rose, Fiesta, and Sugar. Now, I don't know what the Orange must have something. But I didn't.
Yeah, no, just do away with it. Stop. Yeah, the Peach Bowl, the Rose Bowl, Fiesta, Sugar. Well, the Orange is in
the semis?
In the semis, yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I mean, we kind of knew this was going to happen, though, didn't we? I mean, when you went from 4 teams to 12 teams, the 13th team's going to be upset. If you went to 80 teams, the 81st team would be upset.
It's not, and that's not so much about that. The seeding is just stupid. It's just dumb. It's absolutely the dumbest thing in the world. The fact that Oregon's not going to bitch about it, they're in, but whatever. The fact that they would have to play Ohio State again. I mean, that's just
no. But
dumb.
Think about that, Puck, and you and I would love that because it'd be the rematch, and then it'd be the Big Ten against the Big Ten, but it'd be the Big Ten against the Pac-12.
But also with the quarterfinals, with the quarterfinals being on a neutral site, I want the nation to see Boise. I want to see Penn State have to go in to Boise, Idaho, and play on the blue turf. And James Franklin going, what the fuck is this? Where are we? That's what I want.
Yeah, that's what I want. I mean, as much as I don't think Boise State deserved to get a bye, I'm praying to the football gods that they hold up well and play well because they're a future Pac-12 team.
Don't we want Boise and Arizona State in the national title?
Yes. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And I know I'm like you. Most of the season I've been rooting against the defectors, but there's a part of me that would like to see Boise State, Oregon, and ASU go as far as possible.
All right.
Just because, so it would just look like, hey, you guys always talked about us being a finesse conference, not physical enough. Well, where the hell are you right now? We're in the finals.
I'm going to give you one more. I agree. I see your point. I'm going to give you one more point why it's just so stupid. I'm going to give credit to old John Wilner. Wilner and Canzano, they do a podcast together. Go check it out. John Wilner brings up this point, and it's a great point. And it is literally why this system and this committee, we should put them on the barge, okay? he's been talking about this for a while, and he's 100% right. He brings up the point about BYU.
Yeah, I was going to mention that, yeah.
They have the same record as SMU. They beat SMU, okay?
In Dallas.
Same record, beat SMU, okay? They have a better strength of record. They have a better strength of a resume, schedule. Yet
but
they
you know
were
what happened
7 spots below them. It's just, how do you come up with that?
Well, because BYU lost toward the end of the season as opposed to in September and October.
But every stat that they cite, they beat them. They beat them head to head. When you beat a team head to head and
At
have
their
the
place.
same record, it's that one when he's been pointing that out and then pointed out again yesterday, he's right. It's just so right. This is why this committee, they're just a bunch of putzes, all of them. Get them all off. We just get some real football people on there, not athletic directors.
Just get people at sports bars and get 12 of them.
Yes. Go down. What's your favorite watering hole in Bend?
Oh my God, there's so many of them. We were at the D&D on Saturday.
Love the D&D. Okay,
that's a good spot there.
It's a great spot. I told you about that from day one. The D&D is one of the all-timers.
Yeah.
Find 12 people at the D&D who are sports fans. They're the playoff committee because they watch the games.
They could do better, and I think we can agree they probably wouldn't do worse.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I'm with you on Bama, though, Puck. I think a lot of people are. I don't like Alabama, and I don't necessarily want DeBoer to do well down there, but they should have gotten one of the 12 spots.
They're better than SMU. SMU, come on, just are. Anyone who thinks that, anyone like, again, I get the tiresome nature of the SEC. I understand it. My God, just watch it. Just watch them play week in and week out, those teams. They're just so much better athletes, so much better football players on the field. All right, you mentioned earlier we're going to the whale's vagina, San Diego, America's greatest city. Did they redo the turf?
Yeah, I read where they did.
Okay, all right.
It's going to be pristine, as they put it.
Well, we'll see. Will they have Mateer?
Well, we haven't heard anything yet, and it opened today.
When I saw your tweet to me with that, I thought that was him.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, and I'm like, son of a bitch. Really?
Is he gonna buck the trend of everybody leaving and do the Ashton Genty thing? And
I don't know. Well, I'm told there's a big presentation tomorrow. Tomorrow is the day. They're making like a advertising to a client. Big presentation to him tomorrow. To secure whatever it is. Like, this is our offer. Here's what we got. Here's what we're going to offer you. So that's tomorrow. I'm told that by the end of the week they should have a decision. That he'll make a decision.
Okay, let me put yourself in his shoes. If it's, let's say, Auburn or Oregon or whoever is offering 1.5.
Okay. Let's say we're coming in at 750-ish.
You think we come in at 750?
Let's just hypothetical. Yeah, let's say that.
Would that be enough for you to stay in Pullman? I mean, I'm just trying to get at what the difference needs to be. Would it need to be 750, $1 million, $1.25 million?
I mean, here's what I would say. If it's just about money to him or to any player, then he'll leave because he'll get way more money wherever. You mentioned,
but Texas or Oklahoma would be appealing.
Yeah,
some school in Texas, not necessarily the Longhorns.
Huh? He's not gonna go to Texas.
Well, A&M. I mean, I'm just a school sure. Down that way from where he's from.
Well, I think Oklahoma. I mean, he's a couple hours away from his hometown from Oklahoma. So yeah, and his offensive coordinator is there. Sure.
What if he went to Oregon? Could you still root for him?
No. I'm not going to not root against Mateer. I really like John Mateer.
I'd root like hell for him against Washington.
For God's sakes, don't go to Oregon. But that's the best system for him.
Oh, my God.
The way they play
Gabriel did this year.
Yeah, the way they play offensively, that'd be the best system for him. I don't know. Fingers crossed, man. I hope he stays. I know he was at the bowl practice. We talked about the defensive tackle they lost. We talked Parker's gone. Wayshawn Parker, the running back, is gone. Ethan O'Connor is gone. They've lost a few guys already. The portal opens officially today. I know Washington's announced a couple of players, but I don't think any players significant. But this is the time of year most coaches feel this will be the craziest time. Even Dickert said about 20. He thinks 20 players or so will hit the portal.
It's stupid. I mean, it's stupid on a lot of levels. But
Yeah.
if you're in a bowl game, can't you just have your team intact? And then if the kids want to leave after the bowl game, and have it whatever, like, okay, you're playing in the Las Vegas Bowl. We'll have the portal open for your school the day after the Las Vegas Bowl. And you're playing in the Holiday Bowl. We'll have the portal open for you on the 28th.
Can I ask you something? And this is not taking and maybe Dickert's doing this too. So I don't know. But I saw this from Jed Fish. You see where Fish is letting the players stay and play in the bowl game even if they're in the portal? See, my personal...
how are coaches, how are they aligned on that? Are they doing what Fish is doing? I would just say...
So the punter, right, is in the portal. I know, let's laugh, it's a punter. Like, who gives a shit about a punter, right? Whatever, he's in the portal. But he's letting him stay on to play in the bowl game. They're playing in the Sun Bowl. I think I would be like, hey, man, if you want to go in the portal, that's fine. That's your choice. But you're out. Leave.
Yeah. No, I don't even like those kids being on the sideline. You remember when Henley and some of those kids were on the sideline? I'm going, no.
Okay.
If you want to try and be a teammate on the sideline, we want you on the field, or we don't want you.
Put a jersey on.
Yeah.
I side more with you. I think if you want to go in the portal, and I guess I understand the reasoning, I guess, from Fish or other coaches that do this, because there's a chance they could come back. So I guess I understand it. But I'm also like, I mean, if you want to go in the portal, then, go to the portal. We'll see you later.
I'm surprised the kid would even want to do it, because it's like, what, you didn't think I was good enough this year? I don't know how good he was, but clearly they don't think he's very good if they went down to Australia to bring in the next guy as replacement.
Yeah. But they'll probably they need a punter. So like, well, you stick around for the portal. I know it was done last year. I know Dylan Morris did it last year just for Washington. But again, we're talking about a backup player. So I don't know. It's open. It will close on December 28th. Bowl game for the Cougs is on the 27th. Huskies, I mentioned, boy, their fans don't get rewarded. Go spend New Year's Eve in El Paso. Have fun with that. Why have we not? You know what's funny about this game? Because it's it's the second oldest bowl game. The Sun Bowl.
And no one ever gets excited about it.
Not anymore. They used to be.
It kicks off at 11 in the morning.
You used to get excited about it, but not any longer. So they got to go to the Sun Bowl. I would assume fans don't go to that one. I don't even know. Like, there will be many fans going to the Holiday Bowl. We shall see. I know there's a lot of Southern California Cougs down there. Before you go, the Juan Soto deal, huh?
Well, doesn't it just make
money.
you feel like the Mariners are, no matter what they do in the offseason, that they're farther away from a World Series, just in light of what the Mets are paying that guy? Because even if you're just a so-so player, in comparison to Soto, your salary demands have just gone up as a result of what Soto's getting, I would think. And I have to laugh. I have to laugh because I think I've read stories where, the Mariners are going into this offseason with $15 to $20 million to spend. I'm like, fuck.
That's
you talking about peanuts?
That's Adam Jude. That's his report. $15 to $20 million.
I mean, Soto's going to find that, just rattling around in his car.
He's making $51 million this year. I mean, my God, I know it's just underway. The A's have spent more money than the Mariners. The A's. With Severino
it's
deal.
Just, and it's comical to me, and it's also why would you do that to baseball fans? I mean, good for Juan Soto for making that. It's all within the rules.
Yeah.
They can do that, but why they don't do it like the NFL? I mean, it just how do you
want
compete?
a cap? You want a salary cap?
Yeah. How do you compete with that?
Well, it doesn't mean championships, though. I mean, the more you spend does equal to you having a better chance to be in it. But does it get to a point where it's out of control? I mean, you're obviously not in that sandbox. You can't compete with that.
Well, you sit there and you go, God, the Mets got Juan Soto, and the Mariners got Justin Turner.
That's Carlos Santana. And you know what? You know what's really exciting? They're thinking about a platoon there, maybe a rotating at second base. Not really a platoon, obviously, but Dylan Moore and Ryan Bliss.
Oh God. I mean, again, God bless Ryan Moore, try hard guy, but if you want him to be a fixture on your World Series team, other than as a utility player, you're probably not going to make it. But yeah, it's difficult to think about that though, because you know that the Mariners were never in on Soto or Shohei or anybody.
I
who
asked
can make a
Divish last
difference.
week. I'm like, do you think they even brought his name up in their off-season meetings? Hollander went to Dipoto. All right, what do we think we could offer him?
Yeah. How about that opt-out that he has? After 5 years?
Yeah.
He's got an opt-out. And so can you imagine just saying, yeah, I don't want 10 more years at 51. I think I can make more elsewhere. And so then the Mets will be like, well, okay, well, then we'll give you 53.6 and see if you'll stay for that. Well, maybe.
That's great. All right, Jim, we'll talk to you again on Wednesday. The go-to guy joins us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, brought to you by Bright Owl Lighting. Appreciate it. We'll see you Wednesday.
Okay, Puck, go Cougs.
Go Cougs. There he is, Jim Moore, the go-to guy. Go follow him there and go read all of his work. Jim Moore, the go-to guy up there on Substack. Let's talk some Seahawks football. It's time for our Ground Puck podcast with Curtis Crabtree of Fox 13, Tim Booth of the Seattle Times, all brought to you by Georgetown Brewery, locally owned and operated by two diehard Huskies, Manny and Roger. They've been pouring the best local craft beer for the past 23 years. Makers of Manny's Pale Ale, Bodie's Off, a host of your other favorite beers. Tap room open 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week. Tim Booth, Seattle Times, Curtis Crabtree, Fox 13. All right, boys. Well, first place. That was no doubt. Guys, just get some opening thoughts. The most complete win that football team has had this year. Tim, you want to start us off?
Yeah. I mean, you said it. It was as solid a victory. Maybe the only other time you could maybe compare it this year was the win in Atlanta, back in October. But to see what we did from the offense yesterday, specifically the running game, and to finally get that going, to protect Geno in the way that the offensive line did, for Geno to play a really smart game. It was clear that Arizona wasn't going to let them, get anything really over the top in the pass game, and for him to take those underneath throws and continue to get them into good down and distance situations throughout the game. I thought he played a really smart game. And then defensively, take away that first drive and, maybe the drive, at the end where they started to rack up a few yards, for the middle, 40 minutes of that game, they were really damn good. And it was just a continuation of what we've seen for the last 3-4 weeks. So really, really solid victory, really impressive victory. I still don't think Arizona's that good, but to go down there and get a win and kind of stake your claim to first place in the division and give yourself a little bit of wiggle room now going into these next two games, it was an extremely important and extremely impressive victory.
Curtis?
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of that Atlanta game, you saw a 20-yard run yesterday for the first time by anyone since that Atlanta game. That's how long they'd gone since having a 20-yard run of any kind when Ken Walker had his 20-yard touchdown in that game. And it just speaks to how much better the running game performance was in that victory yesterday in Arizona, to be able to have them balance out their offense some. Showed how much better things can look overall, because the passing game didn't need to do everything for them to try to win a football game, to where everything could kind of click into place. And yeah, most complete all-around game that they played all season. You saw even like Derek Young's tackle on special teams, clean on the kicks that they've had. Even on that front of things, it was solid performance. So definitely their best game that they played, I think, collectively all year for sure.
Yeah, special teams good. Yeah, that young play was great. The new returner, although it almost looked like he fumbled there when he hit the ground, I think everyone's heart stopped. Myers continues to be rock solid. And I think for Michael Dixon, who's obviously banged up there with those back spasms, was great. That last punt where they pinned him deep was just phenomenal. Guys, we talk about this every week, right? Last week, the conversation was what? Got to fire Ryan Grubb. Ryan Grubb's awful. He needs to be replaced at the end of the season. They don't have an identity, and he maybe it's too much for him, this NFL game. And I think we were all, in agreement. Listen, you can't get to plays if you can't block, if you can't truly run block or pass block. Yesterday, it's a cliche. You talk about it all the time. You win the trenches. You usually win the game. I know it's not sexy to say every time whoever's got the best interior lines is going to win it, Curtis. But that was the case yesterday. Defensively up front, they were awesome. And then offensively, that offensive line dominated Arizona.
Yeah, and I wonder if take the 51-yard touchdown run by Zach Charbonnet, for instance. You had both Satawa Lamea and Abe Lucas pulling from the right side of the offensive line to come through there. And I wonder if that kind of a play, in which they ran a bunch yesterday, those kind of pulling action plays, I wonder if that's why Lamea is in the lineup right now over Christian Haynes and, even going, I know he's injured, but even over Anthony Bradford. That'll be a discussion when he gets healthy, is maybe his athleticism and ability to get out and move might be the thing that they like about his game to give him that run right now. And I mean, bottom line, it's the best offensive line performance they've had all year, so they shouldn't change that moving forward anytime soon. So that certainly helped for them to be able to put up their best rushing performance of the season. Gino was only hit twice, not sacked at all. By far their best offensive line performance in quite a while, just overall, period. So, and when that happens, suddenly things look a whole lot easier to kind of handle everything up front. So it's a big step forward for them for sure if they can replicate it. Now, if they can replicate that moving forward or get close to that, the ceiling for what this team is capable of the rest of the year has taken a pretty sizable leap forward. We need more than one game sample size to kind of bank on that, but at least gives you that, sliver of hope that they are moving in a direction where the offensive line can become at least not an absolute liability for them over the last month of the regular season. And, at that point, probably into the playoffs.
Tim?
Curtis brought up a good point there. I hadn't thought about Laumea's athleticism as, the reason why they went to him rather than Christian Haynes. But it's a really excellent point, especially when you see what they did yesterday. They ran a lot of counters. They ran a lot of polling plays where Abe Lucas and Laumea are out front kind of leading the way. And that athleticism very well could be the difference. And look at the success that they had yesterday on the ground when they ran those plays specifically. Again, I don't, when they beat Atlanta earlier this year and the offensive line looked kind of good, the thing that stood out to me was Atlanta is not an elite defensive line. It's not an extremely good defensive front. Arizona's defensive front, I wouldn't put them up there as being an above average defensive front. So, while it looked really good yesterday, I think there has to be that context put into it of they weren't playing the Jets defensive front. They weren't playing the Niners defensive front when they were healthy. We need to see this kind of performance against a really good defensive line, against a good front seven. And they're going to get their opportunities in the next 2 weeks, especially because I don't necessarily think you put Green Bay and Minnesota in the category of being elite in the front seven, but they're pretty damn good. And it's the reason why Green Bay's got 9 wins and Minnesota has 11 wins right now, are part of the reason. So, but Laumea has brought something a little different to that front. And, to his credit, I mean, it's looked competent. It's looked like it can do stuff rather than us sitting here going, how the hell are they going to be able to do anything with what the offense is? And back to your original point, Puck, it all of a sudden opens things up for Ryan Grubb in a way that he hasn't been able to maybe call things this year when you have a competent group up front that's able to protect and open some holes. And I think we saw that in the first half yesterday. I think we saw a little bit of what this could be if you get that kind of protection and blocking up front moving forward with what Grubb wants to do in this offense.
Yeah, I mean, I think that just kind of was the point last week. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that he hasn't been without fault Ryan Grubb. I mean, he's made some mistakes here, but again, for all 22 people, okay, you can only get to as many plays and be as creative as you want offensively if you have people up front that can block. And yesterday, because of their offense and how they looked, they were able to block and they were able to run things against Arizona. And they just looked effective. To your point, I mean, even Gannon talked about it afterwards. They did some stuff in the running game. Tim, what you talked about, pulling guys, that action with their offense line that they just hadn't seen before. So nice adjustment by them to get two athletic guys that are on that offensive line moving and having some different looks. I thought Geno played a really, I mean, it's not the most yards he's ever thrown for. What he complete? Damn near 80% of his passes, something like that. But he was efficient. It was very Brady-esque. A lot of dump downs. Let's get it to Charbonnet. Let's get it out quick. Throw it short. On first down, that was the key yesterday. Nothing was third and long, it felt like. They were third and manageable against Arizona. And I love checking it down to the running backs, Curtis. I just thought they did it several times, and a little dump down to Charbonnet, which, he catches it about 2 yards past the line of scrimmage, gets a couple more, and all of a sudden now, Curtis, you're looking at 2nd down and 4.
Yeah, and I mean, ultimately, if Geno was to try to have forced something there like he had in a couple of the more recent games, and you all of a sudden have that turnover, maybe the game looks a little bit different at the end. But they didn't need to, because they were, playing from the lead, playing with their offense able to do the things they were trying to do in general, and getting support from the defense to where you're not forcing the issue. And because they had struggled so much there for a while, the offense was needing to try to force the issue a little bit to keep the ball moving. I mean, heading into this game, what was the stat that from Football Outsider since week 7 they had been the worst offense in the NFL? They were feeling it. They understand that they hadn't been playing great, and they needed to do a little bit more. And that's why I think you started to see some of those interceptions crop up from Geno Smith, trying to force that one extra play that he's trying to get there, and it having go sideways on him. And then to go back to the coordinator aspect of it, well, what's the quote? Was it Mike Tyson quote? Everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the mouth. And you can have a plan for an offense, but if you're getting destroyed at the line of scrimmage, or just getting dominated by a defense overall, that plan goes out the window pretty quick, because you need to try to figure out something else to do, because it didn't work. So it's a whole lot easier to coordinate offense and call plays when you're getting blocking up front.
Yeah. And Charbonnet was just excellent yesterday, Tim. I mean, here's a guy that got a lot of opportunities, obviously, with Ken Walker, with Walker being entrenched as the number 1 back. I think, though, in this town, maybe fans and some of the fans especially, you forget what a special talent this guy is and was at UCLA.
Yeah, and think about what we've talked about before with Ken Walker and how often he has to be the one to make the first guy miss because the blocking up front has been so terrible. So when you get a situation like yesterday where a downhill running back, a guy who's not the shifty guy that's going to, make a whole bunch of cuts and make, try and make everybody miss, but as a downhill runner and you get that kind of blocking, you get those results.
Yeah.
You get what you saw yesterday. You get him running behind his pads, you get him running over guys, 3-4 yards downfield, and you get those, big chunk plays separate from the 51-yard touchdown run that really, really show what kind of talent, this guy can be. And his pass catching yesterday was, to your point, Puck, was exceptional. He made a couple of really, really tough catches that set them up, that either got them first downs or set them up in short yardage situations. I want to say it was maybe the second drive of the game where he kind of caught Geno threw kind of high, and he went up and got one up above his head. And I don't remember if he got the first down off of it or if he just set him up in maybe 3rd and short. But a couple of those plays yesterday really showed off maybe a range about him that, he's been the 3rd down guy, but they haven't really used him in 3rd downs, that much as a pass catcher. And yesterday in those early down situations, he came up with some really, really impressive catches for them and was a real threat in multiple ways.
It's something I'd like to see more of. I'd love to see them incorporate the running backs more.
Well, that was the whole idea when they drafted him, was like, hey, this 1-2 punch of Walker and Charbonnet. And I think it's kind of, I think it's gone back a little bit to that fact that they've been so bad at blocking in the run game. You kind of need the guy in there who can make somebody miss. and who can actually make a positive play out of a potential 3 or 4 yard loss. Again, this is what we've been talking about for weeks and weeks and weeks. When you get what you got yesterday, then you really can have that 1-2 punch of those two guys, working in tandem, moving forward and potentially creating a very dynamic pairing in that backfield.
Curtis, do we have a running back controversy?
No, I don't think we do. But it's good to have Charbonnet as a part of the mix, being able to do some stuff too.
Sure.
And as Tim mentioned there, Charbonnet had a catch really late in the game where it was a high thrown ball where you've seen it 1,000 times in the NFL, where that throw can't be handled by the receiver, running back, whatever, tips up in the air, gets picked off, and now all of a sudden it's going the other way. And he was able to snag that and keep the ball moving downfield. It was a dangerous, not a dangerous throw, but it got to a little bit of a tricky spot. And you've seen that, like I said, you've seen those turn into interceptions many times, and he was able to make that catch and keep them moving and allow them to close out that game. So, 193 yards from scrimmage yesterday for Zach Charbonnet. Massive game for them when they absolutely needed one.
And they needed it, right, guys? I mean, that game was needed not only because of the playoff chances and the odds, right? The win or lose. I mean, those numbers swayed dramatically. Had they won, which they did, and then had they lost. But I think two guys in particular needed it, and they were, one of them was awarded a game ball yesterday. But I do think, just going back to the topic of last week and now this week, I think Ryan Grubb and Scott Huff needed that game. Because the pressure was mounting, and it felt like everybody. I mean, that was all last week. Was just like, oh my God, it's so bad. And we don't really talk about Huff that much because he's offensive line coach. I don't think you talk about the offensive line coach all that much, anyways. But the pressure and just the heat was turning up on both those guys, and they were just phenomenal yesterday. I mean, I understand the opponent, but they still were good.
Well, and I think to that point, Puck, these are guys that we've never seen do it at the NFL level. Yep. So you've only seen them do it at the college level, and they've been really, really successful at the college level. So you don't have that history to fall back on to know that they're going to come out of whatever struggles they might have when it comes to the context of coaching in the NFL. And so you need to see this kind of result because it just reinforces McDonald's belief in him, the franchise's belief in them, that they were the right coaches to bring in and the right offensive system to run with this group. Now, one game is great. Now you need to see it a couple more times, and to have it pointed in the right direction. Whatever the rest of the season ends up looking like, you want to see this offense pointed in the right direction as you go into the final 3-4 weeks of the season. And then whatever happens, whether that's a playoff berth and a playoff game, or something happens and you lose in week 18 and your season ends, you still want to see it trending in the right direction to know that, hey, these guys know what they're doing. They've learned during the season. They've made the adjustments on the fly, and this offense has this kind of potential in the future, because all you have to fall back on with them is, well, they looked great at UW or they looked great at Fresno State, but how does it look in the NFL?
Well, let me just, Curtis, why, and Tim, you can answer this afterwards. Why do we, when it comes to players, and even I think, Mike, let's just say a new head coach, why do we afford rookie players a year to get their feet wet, but we don't afford that same grace to a first-year offensive coordinator who's a rookie? We just don't. He never called plays in the NFL. But we afford, if he were a rookie quarterback, we'd be like, oh, well, the game is changing, and he's got to learn how to adjust, and it takes these players a while to adjust to the professional level. But we don't afford it, I think, to the offensive coordinator. And then I go back to, earlier in the season. I mean, the first half of the year, first 6, 7, 8 games of the year, the defense was nothing to write home about. It's why they made all the moves that they did. The defense they weren't playing well at all. They were benefited, early in the season from a rookie quarterback making his very first start. They get the Dolphins without Tua. You see the difference in the Dolphins offense with Tua opposed to, I can't remember who started that game.
Skylar Thompson. Thank you.
But yet we were able to, all right, well, let's, pause, and now they've turned it around. And maybe this is the last game to to kind of spark this offense. But I mean, I don't know. Curtis, we should afford a guy who's a rookie as a play caller, I think a little bit more grace and time to adjust to the league.
Nah, let's just be irrational.
That works as well. That works.
No,
because let me jump in, because I thought Jay Harbaugh, and then I'll shut up and I'll let you answer. I thought Jay Harbaugh said something interesting this week with you guys when he was talking about making all the moves and cutting the two specialists that they cut. And he said, well, I never had to go through that. This is the first time I've ever had to go through that. I've never cut a player in my life. In college, they were just, you're not cutting a college player. You bench them. But I had to cut, we had to cut somebody. And that kind of hit home, Tim, to your point, Curtis, to the point you've talked about as well. These guys are doing it for the first time. There's going to be a learning curve.
Yeah, I mean, I know we said it back in training camp that at some point there was going to be some growing pains for all of these coaches throughout the year, because all the top 4 coaches on this team are doing it for the first time at this level. Whether it's McDonald, Dirday, Grubb, Harbaugh, you could even go down to Huff for that aspect too. It's their first time coaching at the NFL level, and it's different. It just is. Like, you're not seeing Leonard Williams or Aaron Donald type players on the opposite left side of the line of scrimmage in college, except for maybe one in the SEC, maybe. Like, it's different what you have to handle. So there's going to be some adjustments that needed to be made. We've seen the defense do it, both from a personnel and, play standpoint. Ernest Jones trade, man, like, good heavens, how good has that been for them? And, Roy Robertson Harris has helped them too, very much so, as a run defender on the line of scrimmage. So they've made their fix to the defensive side. Kobe Bryant's not leaving the starting lineup now that he's been in there. So they've made numerous changes on that side. Trey Brown's not playing anymore in favor of Josh Jobe. They've made the changes there. We've seen them make the changes with the returning team. The offensive line has certainly had their changes throughout the right side of the offensive line for sure throughout the year, trying to figure it out. So it's not like they've been just doing things and saying, oh, it'll come along. No, they've been working on it and trying to get things better. And we've heard McDonald say for the last few weeks that they've seen, incremental progress in the running game. It just hadn't actually broken out yet. And yesterday it did, to Tim's point, against a not great defensive front, but they were able to pop and have a big day on the ground. And that certainly shows that they can, adjust and make progress. And we'll see how things continue to move. I wouldn't necessarily say, like, if the running game sputters the rest of the year, it wouldn't shock me if they look to bring in a run game coordinator of some kind to diversify it at some point this offseason. I don't see them making any changes with the coaching staff at this point from what we've seen, but definitely a big stride forward for them yesterday.
What's easier to replace, players or coaches? That's what it boils down to. That's why you hear the outcry. That's why you get fans up in arms, because when you draft a player or you sign a player, you are, essentially locked into them for, most of the term of whatever that contract is, because you don't want to take the risk of the cap hit and the dead money and all those kind of things that are involved. But a coach, you can change coaches. You can shuffle coaches in and out however often you want. And there's always that shiny toy that's sitting out there who's got some weird offensive system or some amazing defensive system that you're like, hey, I would like to have that for my team, or I'd like to have that guy coaching my team. That's why you get the constant chatter about, well, why don't we replace the coach? Why don't we replace the offensive coordinator? Why don't we replace the defensive coordinator when things aren't going well? Because that's the easiest thing to change. You can't overhaul 11 guys on offense with a snap of a finger, but you can change the guy who's running the offense.
Yeah, and there seems to be right. We made reference to it earlier. There's this all 22 now person, and it's so prevalent in this sport, and it's just I just had enough with it. I just had enough of it. I mean, and good for them and all that, but they're not. Most of these people are not qualified to sit there and give expert analysis on what the play was or what the play design is. They're not in the meeting rooms. They don't know. Most of them don't know what they're talking about.
You mean being a star high school running back didn't allow you the opportunity, or fullback didn't allow you the opportunity to go out and analyze tape and break it down and make overall rash judgments about the way a team is working?
Oh, I mean, it's if they were so good at it, they'd be working for an NFL team.
This is true.
You know what I mean? It's complicated, man.
It simultaneously made us smarter and dumber about football at the exact same time. Having
That's
access
a great
to it.
point.
I agree. Yeah, 100%. That's a great way to describe it.
It is. It has. You're right about it. It has made people smarter and dumber at the same time.
Because the thing is, like, there are some guys out there who do it. And I think former players and former NFL coaches who do it, like Brian Baldinger, Jeff Schwartz, like those guys who break
Orlovsky.
down. Orlovsky. They're really damn good, and you actually learn shit when you sit down and watch them, whatever they're happen to post or whatever they're talking about. But yeah, dude who's in the press box or dude who's on his couch, like you can give your analysis of it, but don't tell me what the hell they're doing because you spent 17 hours breaking down the film. Like I'll go to the experts.
No fun.
Like,
I don't want it. No fun. This defense you guys both touched on it, Curtis. I mean, the impact that Ernest Jones has made on this team, and I know there's other factors. Leonard Williams is playing great, but it's just, I mean, this will go down as one of the best in-season trades this organization has ever made. The way he's playing,
unquestionably, like he's been terrific for them. Now, I mean, I hope just about any linebacker that's played for the Seahawks is able to catch that ball that's thrown at him yesterday, because it's, I mean, it was thrown directly to him. Like, so I'm glad he made that catch as opposed to the one he dropped in the Rams game. But ultimately he's just, the decision that they've made to pivot from Jerome Baker and Tyrell Dodson to Tyrese Knight and Ernest Jones mid-season has been just a massive boon for that defense and what it's done. And I don't think we should downplay the play of Tyrese Knight either. I think he's been very solid in his role jumping into the lineup there too. But it certainly comes together once you have Ernest Jones there running things into the middle, and what he's been able to accomplish with them. He's you can definitely see why they want to get him signed for the future. I think he would love to stay here from what he's told us as well. And I mean, for them to go out potentially in successive years and find a star defensive lineman and Leonard Williams, trade for them, get him to stay, and trade for a star linebacker and Ernest Jones, trade for him, get him to stay. Those could be two very, very pivotal moves for the front office to hang their hat on here for a while moving forward.
Yeah. And then here, I was thinking about this. Jim and I were talking earlier about it, Tim. I mean, it's just a rookie, and there's probably a whirlwind of things that are going on for rookies, and they have to get up to speed of the game. We just talked about this, right? The grace period of Grubb and just, rookie quarterbacks and all that. But God, when I think back, when I watched Tyrese Knight play yesterday, and I'm thinking all the plays he's making, tackles, led the team in tackles, I believe. There's a couple, one or two times he's guarding or covering Marvin Harrison and making plays, and I'm thinking, what the hell happened in training camp? Did they not was he not doing this in training camp?
Well, he was known coming out as a tackler. Like that was his calling card, was that he was a very fundamental, very strong, tackler, run support, that kind of guy. The pass coverage thing was always going to be kind of his question mark. And I think that's what you saw early in the season, and maybe why they, slow played him the way they did, was he needed to get better at the pass recognition, the pass coverage, the drops, all those kind of things that go into having to do that at the linebacker position for them. And I think it helps too to have, you're now pairing him with a guy that you feel incredibly solid with. It almost, it's not the same, but it was kind of like when Jordan Brooks got here and he was paired with Bobby, and you saw Brooks kind of take a little bit of time that first year to sort of grow into what he became. Knight kind of feels the same. You needed that solid guy in Ernest Jones in there that they could trust, that they felt good was going to be assignment sound, that was going to do everything that he's asked to do, to then feel comfortable putting Knight in there. And I don't know if they felt that way with where things were with Dotson and Baker, earlier in the season. I know Knight got thrown in there when Baker wasn't playing, but you needed that solid figure next to him to sort of maybe allow him to make some of those young mistakes that he was going to make just because he's a rookie and going through it for the first time. But what we've seen the last couple of weeks, he's picking it up pretty damn quick, and he played exceptionally well yesterday.
Yeah. And similarly, think back to Richard Sherman. He didn't start right away as a rookie.
Yeah.
Neither him or Byron Maxwell were ready to jump in it from game one of that season. but they got there. And I mean, Tim, you remember looking back on that training camp, neither one of them necessarily jumped off the field for us as rookies in training camp. It took them a little bit of time, and then they both became very good players, with Sherm obviously being much better, potential Hall of Famer down the line. But sometimes it does take a little bit to adjust as a rookie coming into the NFL and figuring things out. And he's a violent linebacker. He's willing to lay some hits out there too. But he's been fun to watch since he's jumped into the starting lineup again, for sure.
All right, boys. What do we think this week? You mentioned this before. Packers, you're going to get a very much different defense, right? That they're going to be facing on Sunday night with Van Ness. You got Clark and Gary and these guys, Devon White. I mean, this is a better front, good statistically, especially against the run. Points given up to very good defense. What do you expect the atmosphere to be like? That's the other thing, too. What do you expect the atmosphere to be like on Sunday night against the Packers?
Yeah, it might be the best home game atmosphere we've had in a while. Like a late season in the mix, Sunday night Sunday night game against a good team. I expect that stadium to be pretty hyped on Sunday night.
A lot of Packer fans.
You could see some of that too, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it'll probably end up being a pretty relative low scoring kind of game, kind of a grinded out kind of affair. And which team comes out, I don't know. I actually think the Seahawks probably have a better chance against Minnesota the following week, just because I think there's still some like paper tigerness to the Vikings with what they've done this year. But this is where you want to be a month ago. You've got everything in front of you. You've got the lead in the division. That we're heading towards a potential NFC West championship game week 18 with the Rams coming up. So
could be awesome.
Yeah, it could be a really fun stretch of football to watch down here over the next 4 weeks.
Think about what the situation could be between Thursday night and Sunday night. So Thursday night you got Rams Niners. If the Niners, look like the Niners did yesterday, obviously against a crappy Bears team, but if the Niners look like they did yesterday and beat the Rams, you have the opportunity Sunday night to basically plant the flag in the division. Now, it obviously won't be wrapped up by that point, but you have that chance to get to 9-5. It should be a great atmosphere. It should be a fun game. There's going to be a shit ton of Packers fans. They come out of the woodwork. They're going to wear the cheese heads. It's going to pop on TV because they're going to be wearing yellow. It's like it's going to look terrible, but for what we've all talked about with like the Bills fans showing up earlier this year, but and this could be a playoff preview. Like as it stands right now, it could be Seattle, Green Bay on the wild card weekend, back here in Seattle. So very fast, very interesting matchup because, as Curtis pointed out, it's a far better defense than what Seattle played yesterday. I think the Packers offensively are really good. Like Jordan Love's really good. Josh Jacobs is really good. Those receivers are pretty damn good. And I also think Curtis is right that I think your better chance of these two games is probably Minnesota the following week. I still have zero belief in the Vikings, even despite the fact they have 11 wins. So, but Sunday night should be fun. It'll be a really fun atmosphere and a fun game to be at. And like all Packers Seahawks games in Seattle, something batshit crazy is going to happen in the north end zone, and we're all going to be scrambling to write about it at like
100%.
9:00 Sunday night.
Well, and a great chess match coming up in the next 2 weeks, right? Young defensive, quote, mastermind and Mike McDonald against two very accomplished, head coaches who call plays.
Yep.
And two offenses that are rolling. All right, boys, that's it. Ground Puck Podcast with Curtis Crabtree of Fox 13, also Tim Booth of the Seattle Times. In case you missed it, find this podcast and the YouTube replay of it up on YouTube. Please subscribe there when you go there. Also, check it out, Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcasts. And, of course, always up at pucksports.com. All right, gentlemen, we'll talk to you next Monday. Thank you.
See you, Puck.
See you, Puck.
And, of course, brought to you by Georgetown Brewery, locally owned and operated by two diehard Huskies, Manny and Roger. They got the best local craft beer in all of the Northwest. They are the beer of the Pacific Northwest. Makers of Manny's, Bodie, Lucille, Rogers, all of it. Host, of course, of your other favorite beers as well. And the tap room open 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week. Visit them again online, georgetownbeer.com. Real quick, hey, what the puck brought to you by Restoration One of North Seattle. Your restoration company lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, mold damage with their property restoration services. Make them your first call when damages affect your residential or commercial property, 206-817-8917. Visit them online at restoration1.com, the North Seattle franchise. Didn't get to this earlier, so I wanted to save it for Hey, What the Puck. History was made this past Friday. I was so honored and glad to be there. I was on the call for the NFHS Network, which, of course, broadcasts all the WIA games, and we had the 3A championship game between O'Day and Bellevue. Historic matchup with two historic high school programs, two of the very best high school programs. I think when you think of high school football in this state, I think those are the first two programs that come to mind for many, many people, and deservedly so. And I think when you really then pare that down, when you think of high school football in this state, despite not having as many championships as Bellevue, I think the first team you think of is O'Day. And then when you think of O'Day, you think of Monty Kohler. And Monty Kohler has been 40 years being a head football coach at O'Day High School. Started in 1985. He thought he would last a couple of years. He got a phone call from his old high school coach, Bob Bartlett, who was his high school coach back there in Missoula, Montana, and said, hey, there's a program out here. He was in Spokane. There's a program in O'Day and Seattle, and they need a coach and teacher and all that kind of stuff. Would you do it? Okay, I'll do it. And he thought he would stay there for a couple of years. Well, a couple of years turned into 40. And what he accomplished on Friday night over at Husky Stadium, which was an incredible environment, by the way, and it was on Saturday as well, Camas and Sumner and Anacortes and Tumwater and all those games. It's a great environment. I hope the WIA never leaves Husky Stadium. Stay there for as long as you can. But you witnessed him tie the all-time coaching mark, Sid Otten of Tumwater, 394 wins. Congratulations to Monty Kohler. He is just an excellent football coach, an excellent person, and an excellent football program, but just does it the right way. Does Monty Kohler and the O'Day Fighting Irish. And Bellevue, same as well. I mean, Bellevue, Michael Knipe, an unbelievable coach there as well. But O'Day, congratulations to them. Congratulations to all the teams that won, but the Irish were great there on Friday. That's it. Hey, What the Puck? Brought to you by Restoration One in North Seattle. Your restoration company lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, mold damage. Give them a call, 206-817-8917. Visit them online at restoration1.com, North Seattle franchise. All right. The entire show will be up there later on all the different platforms. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel, please. Also follow along on Apple and Spotify, wherever you find your podcast. Of course, always up at pucksports.com. People commenting on my hair. It was very windblown today, wasn't it? It looked great. It wasn't messy, just kind of all over the place. Thank you for all checking in on the live stream on YouTube, also on X. Also check it in on the Puck Sports mobile app. iOS downloaded today. Also the Android app. I know there's still some bugs in the Android app. We'll fix those up for you guys. Appreciate you always joining us every single day. We go live at 10 a.m., roughly at around 11:30 or so. And again, all content up on YouTube and all the podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, and pucksports.com. Everything goes up at 1 o'clock. So in case you missed the live show, of course, the replay will be up there shortly for you. Tuesday's show coming up, John Canzano will talk about the college football playoffs, the rankings, and why they're all buffoons, and also Rob Staten. We'll talk more Seahawks with Rob Staten from a Seahawks draft blog. No, Rob's not coming up tomorrow. No, my bad. Rob's coming up on Wednesday. Tomorrow, Danny Kelly from The Ringer. We'll talk the Seahawks football there with Danny Kelly. Rob's on Wednesdays. Got to get my days right. All right, we'll talk to you tomorrow. As always, we promise to be better.
No shoes, no ties.
Would anybody like to smoke some pot?
Yeah.
I was born to love you. I was born to lick your face. I was born to rob you. But you were born to rub me first.
What do you need my address for?
We'd like to send out a mailer.
Mother of mercy, I don't speak Japanese!